the Remain scare stories?
Oh, this is tough now. You've got to remember what they are. There was,
Okay,
no,
one was
cuddly toy.
about
There was no cuddly toy either.
There was no cuddly toy.
Football was ours.
Football was yours.
I can only remember football now.
What was it, though? What was the point?
You couldn't buy players anymore from Europe.
You're allowed to travel freely in the EU and work freely in the EU, and that footballers, Hector Bellerin at Arsenal, for example, came through as a youngster, wouldn't be allowed to
I don't want to get into the details of each one. Remember, they are scare stories. 4%, Citibank saying that inflation would go to 4% if we left. The in-group made use of that. Who knows where Citibank got that figure? No wonder bank stocks are plummeting. Bees, that was Remain, and bees because there's something to do with the European bees. Mr. Putin was Remain because he'd love us to leave as well. The outscare stories were Turkey. They're all coming here.
Yep.
The flag of Turkey will be flying over Downing Street shortly. That was one. That's great. Biscuits, interfering with how we prepare biscuits. The NHS. We'll have to privatise it all unless we get out. And the Eurozone. That, I forget what it was, but that's a perennial scare story.
Well, that's the most important one.
Isn't it? James McGrory, how many votes do you think there are in warning people that the EU is bad for British bees?
I don't think it's the be-all and end-all,
Very good.
but there is there's a serious issue with the decline in the bee population.
Yeah, but it's got nothing to do with our membership, has it?
Look, the bee population is declining across Europe and across the world. You are going to need to take joint action, whether you're inside the EU or outside the EU, to tackle it.
But you would agree that we shouldn't take the future of this country should not be determined on the bee population?
I think it's going to be determined on the economy and security.
Right, so not the bees.
It's not the be-all and end-all.
And how many votes are there in biscuits?
There's no votes in biscuits.
So why make it an issue?
Well, the reality is people want to focus on the big issues. They want to focus on security and they want to focus on sovereignty.
So why are both sides focusing on trivia and scare?
These are small, trivial issues. The big issues that we should be focusing on, as I say, it's about sovereignty and it's about our economics. And, why is the Prime Minister scaremongering in the way that you showed on your clip earlier, suggesting that migrant camps are coming to Kent?
Well, let's take that, because the Prime Minister implied that the reason the situation that we had the Calais arrangement was because of our membership of the EU. If we left the EU, that would now be ripped up. The camps would move to Kent. We all know none of that is true, isn't it? That the camps are a result of a bilateral arrangement by France and Britain, and that even if we stay in the EU, France could rip that treaty up tomorrow if it wanted to. It's not connected with EU membership.
I think there's a far greater risk that they'd rip that treaty up if we left the EU. It's not just me saying that. The former head of the UK border agency said that this week. The mayor of Calais, the deputy mayor of Calais are actively campaigning for it. French opposition politicians are queuing up to say the same thing.
But hold on. The French politicians are queuing up to say that regardless of whether we're in or out. Mr. Sarkozy says if he becomes president, he will rip up the agreement, regardless of whether Britain's in or out of the EU. So the membership of the EU is not the relevant factor.
I think it's a lot more likely to happen if we...
But he's already saying he would do it.
Look, the guy who ran the borders in this country, that's exactly
Yeah, but
what
he doesn't run France. Mr. Sarkozy could be the next president of France. He says he's going to do it even if we stay in.
Well, the real point is, it was a deliberate attempt by the Prime Minister to scare the British people. He's bullying his cabinet ministers, he's frightening his junior ministers, and he's threatening senior corporate leaders, and now he's trying to terrify the British public with suggestions of tents all over Kent. It's outrageous.
And you're trying to terrify people that will be overrun by Turks if we stay in.
No, we're not terrifying people by that. It's just a clear observation. Do we or do we not want Turkey to join? There are serious issues.
But there's no prospect of Turkey joining. No, I mean if you see
you are some people on the Remain side.
No, we've seen the transcript of the Turkish president in dealing with Mr. Tusk. It was leaked, and Mr. Erdogan's biggest complaint is that in 30 years they've made no progress. So why scare people with
I would
Turkey?
think most people would say, excellent, that's a good thing.
But so why are you scaring people?
Well, I haven't been scaring people about it.
No, but your side has.
Well, other people might have done.
Well, are you elevated by this debate so far on the future of our nation?
Not particularly, but I expect a big scrap, and I think if you'll have a referendum, you better expect a punch-up. So, I'm not appalled or horrified either. Yeah. I think it is quite interesting, given Mr Cameron's position on renegotiation, Andrew, that, he's starting to... I hadn't expected him to go into, frankly, a scaremongering tactic so early. And I think he knows that he has got perhaps a bit more of a
Is he more worried than he thought he would be?
He's a little bit more worried at this stage than maybe we'd anticipated. And I think also the response just quickly to, the fact that the renegotiation deal is now broadly seen, whether you're kind of pro or anti, as not much of a deal. So he has to move his argument elsewhere, and that's where things get a little crazy.
And I do agree with that. I was astonished. This is the kind of throw of the dice I would expect it with 10 days to go. The fact that he's done it in 4 months in advance, I reckon his own private polling is telling him that things look very gloomy. And the other aspect is it gives the members of the Leave campaign a push, because if they're saying the Prime Minister is basically running the race migrants argument, I am going to run my own race migrants argument. Look at those 11 million people from Syria. By the way, they're making their way up the A2. I thought that was a disastrous move by him. But look, he's flogging himself to death 7 days a week with various things. He's even fronting up prison reforms now, right in the middle of all these negotiations. I think he's overworking, he's overworried.
He's in a rush,
he's
isn't he?
overstretched.
Yeah.
He's scaring people at a time when he's gagging his own ministers. But we love it, to be honest, all this scaremongering, because the truth is the British people, we will not be bullied, we will not be scared, we will not be threatened, and I'm convinced we will vote.
When will we? I don't necessarily want you to answer the substance of this, but when will we move on, both sides, in your case, when will we start to hear the positive, uplifting case for remaining in the European Union?
I'll try to make it every day. The economic benefits we get from being in the EU, the jobs that are linked to our membership of the EU, the lower prices in the shops, the huge amounts of foreign investment we get into this country because big companies know they can trade to the world's largest trading bloc right on our doorstep. I'd much rather talk about those things than biscuits or bees.
And when will we get a clearer idea of what kind of nation we'd be if we're no longer in the EU?
We're making that message all the time. The truth is that Britain, we will be outward facing, we will be globally facing, and it's really interesting. More and more big businesses, when they address the issues, are now recognising that actually, forget all the myths, they're admitting that, there is no concerns about their jobs and about their investment and their plans for the UK. You take Toyota, Nissan, Vauxhall, they've all said, actually, it won't make any difference.
What we're going to do, sorry, we have run out of time, but you can see it is actually, certainly for me, more interesting when we get on to the important issues.
Perhaps next time.
So next time we'll come back and
less bees.
Forget the bees. All the birds.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.